This is Appalachian Television Omni Media, improving America. 308, local Wasteland time. If you're listening, it means the night still carries voices, even the ones that didn't belong to this place. Before the story, a quick truth, outside the signal. I don't speak Spanish very well. Not fluently. Not the way a man should, if he's trying to be understood. I can shape a sentence. I can read pieces. But sometimes the words don't come, and my mouth turns simple idea into something jagged and slow. Still, I tried. Because I started realizing something that didn't sit right. People were hearing the signal, but not the message. A word here, a sentence there. The rest, lost in the gap. And if a transmission can cross mountains, ruins, and silence, then I can cross a language too. Not cleanly, not proudly, just honestly. So I use what the wasteland leaves behind. Old school books, half-missing pages, pencil notes in the margins, from someone who's gone now. Night after night, I practiced, until the sound stopped feeling like a wall, and started feeling like a door I could at least push open. And then something happened. I wasn't expecting it. After those Spanish broadcasts, somebody answered. Not from the next ridge, not from the next county, not even from the next state. Mexico City. Not a traveler passing through. A voice on the air, bleeding through like a second station bleeding into mine, riding the same broken band of frequency I've been using to keep this place stitched together. He called himself Xicohténcatl. We talked. Not long. Not like friends. More like two men on opposite sides of a storm, shouting to confirm that the other one is still alive. He told me it's a wasteland down there, too. Different streets, different ruins, different languages in the prayers, but the same hunger, the same grief, the same small bargains people make when the world stops being generous. And that's the part I want you to hold on to tonight. Appalachia isn't the only ruin that learned to breathe. West Virginia isn't the only place where people trade stories like medicine and carry loss like gear. There are other pockets of the world still moving, other survivors, other settlements, other kinds of predators, and quiet. We just don't hear about them because the maps died, and borders stopped meaning anything except for distance. Xicohténcatl listens to that distance. He gathers what the people tell him. Locals, wanderers, caravan people, the same way that the stories get carried to me. He doesn't perform anything. He just tells me what he heard, and I pass it on to you. Same night, same weight, just a longer reach. Tonight's story came from him, from Mexico City, by way of a place called Xochimilco. It's called the Axolotl Hunter. Xicohténcatl said the canals of Xochimilco still exist. Not pretty, not safe, but still there, water cutting through ruined neighborhoods, like the city refused to stop bleeding. People still travel by boat in places, because the streets buckle, and they flood, and the old roads, they don't mean what they used to. And in that water, there's a man. He doesn't live in a settlement, doesn't dock for long, doesn't sleep under a roof, unless he has to. He stays on a makeshift boat with a small lantern hanging at the bow. And that lantern is the first thing people talk about. They say you can still see it at night, drifting between the willows. Not like a beacon, not like an invitation, more like a vigil. They call him the Axolotl Hunter, but Xicohténcatl said the name is older than the truth. He doesn't hunt them the way people expect. That part doesn't matter. What matters is why he stays on the water. What matters is where he won't go. There's an island in those canals, a place that existed before the war and survived after it, because some things are cursed enough to keep their identity, even when the world changes. La Isla de las Muñecas, the island of the dolls. Before the bombs, people came there for fear on purpose. They paid for it. They took photos. They laughed afterwards, because they could leave. Now, nobody goes for fun. Now people only go if they're desperate, or stupid, or trying to prove that they don't believe in anything. The island is still covered in dolls. Plastic faces, sun-bleached, hair rotted in a straw, eye sockets empty, like the trees are growing little witnesses. And at night, the dolls move, not in a clean, dramatic way, not like a movie, just enough that no one can agree where they were hanging yesterday, just enough that the island feels awake. Xicohténcatl said the locals have a story, not a tourist story, not a campfire story, a story people tell, only after they've checked who's listening. They say there's a woman on the island, not a living woman, not anymore. Something like a ghoul, but not the kind that you see in Appalachia, hiding in buildings and eating old cans. This one is different. This one turned into something that belongs to Mexico now, a wasteland version of an old shape. They call her a name sometimes, but the name changes depends on who's speaking. Some compare her to La Llorona. Some compare her to El Sabon. Xicohténcatl didn't claim he knew which folklore fits. He said just the same thing that every person said. She wails over the water. Not every night, but often enough that people don't call it a coincidence anymore. And when you hear it, you don't go closer. You go home. The axolotl hunter is tied to her. That's the center of it. Xicohténcatl said that the man was married once. Not a romantic legend. Not a big story. Just a life. A wife. A small place near the canals. A routine built around water because in Xochimilco, water is always the point. When the world cracked, radiation came like a second weather system. Not a single blast you could point to. More like a sickness that settled into the bones of the city and never left. His wife got exposed. How exactly? Depends on who tells it. Some say she went looking for clean supplies and found a pocket of hot water where she shouldn't have been. Some say a pre-war site leaked. Vaultec, Robco, something with a big logo still intact. And the canal carried the poison right into the people's homes. Some say raiders shoved her into the water just as a joke. Nobody agrees on the details, but everybody agrees on the result. She changed. Not fast. Not dramatic. Slow. The way dying happens in real life. The way a person becomes a stranger, one symptom at a time. And the man couldn't accept it. He tried keeping her hidden. He tried medicine. He tried bargaining with anyone who claimed that they had a cure. But the wasteland doesn't give you cures. It gives you time. And time finished the job. Xicohténcatl said she left one night. Or maybe she wandered. Or maybe she was drawn. Some people believe that the island calls to the sick, because the dolls are full of old grief. And grief attracts grief. She ended up on La Isla de las Muñecas. And after that, she wasn't his wife anymore. She became the thing people whispered about. The wailing. The shape moving between hanging dolls. The presence that makes the water feel watched. A Mexican wasteland ghost made out of radiation and memory. So why doesn't he go out to her? That's what everyone asks the first time that they hear the story. If he loves her, why not row straight to the island? Why not step onto the mud? Why not pull her away? Why not end it? Xicohténcatl said the answer is the real story. Because the hunter did go once. He got close enough to see her. Close enough that the dolls stopped feeling like dolls. It started feeling like eyes. Close enough that the water stopped being water. It started being a boundary. And he realized something terrible. If he gets too close, she goes quiet. The wailing stops. The sound that proves that she's still there, still something, still present, it stops. Not because she's soothed, because she changes, or because she remembers him, or because whatever she is now recognizes him as a threat. Xicohténcatl said that the hunter came back to his boat that night, shaking like a man who's seen the end of love, and he made a decision. Not heroic, not clean. A decision made by someone who can't rescue what he loves, but can't abandon it either. He stays on the water, close enough that she's still there, far enough that she doesn't come for him. Love at a distance. Devotion measured in meters. People think that's a weakness. They hear, he won't go to the island, and assume fear. But Xicohténcatl said that the locals who know better, they don't call him a coward. They call him careful, because he learned the wasteland rule most people learn too late. Some things can't be fixed. They can only be managed without making them worse. So he keeps his boat in the same range. Night after night, lantern low, eyes on the tree line, where dolls hang like rotten fruit. Listening, waiting. Not for her to be saved, just for her to still be something. Xicohténcatl said a trader once drifted close enough to speak to him, offered him food, offered him company. The hunter didn't take much. He only asked one question. Did you hear her tonight? The trader said no. The hunter stared at the island for a long time, and then sensed something that sounded like a prayer, and sounded like punishment at the same time. Then, she's sleeping. That's how grief works in the wasteland. It takes whatever's left and turns it into a ritual. It turns love into distance. It turns memory into geography. A boat that never docks. An island nobody wants. A lantern drifting between willows. Like a man keeping watch over the part of his life that broke and kept moving away. And maybe that's the real horror. Not the dolls. Not the wailing. But the fact that love can survive at the end of the world and still lose. When you live long enough in the wasteland, you start learning philosophy you never asked for. You learn that distance doesn't make suffering smaller. It just makes it quieter. And you learn that fear has the same shape everywhere. A person trying to control what they can, because what they can't control is too big to hold in the mind. And you learn that grief doesn't disappear. It changes jobs. And sometimes it becomes devotion. Sometimes it becomes a man with a lantern, keeping watch over black water, because leaving would mean admitting the story ended without him. So, I'll say it plainly before the signal fades. Thank you to Xicohténcatl for carrying this one across the distance and trusting me with it. You've been listening to Midnight in the Wasteland, and I'm Nightwatch. I'll be back tomorrow, if the quiet stays kind. Until then, keep your fire small, keep your water close, and don't assume the silence is empty. Sometimes, it's listening back.